A great podcast ad has a few key characteristics. Number one, it's very personalized, it's authentic, and it's coming from the host's heart. There's a long list of companies that have performed really well with podcast advertising, and they keep spending month on month, indicating that it's really working and outperforming some of the other channels. Some companies that come to mind: Shopify, AG1, Quint, LinkedIn. There's a very specific playbook that a lot of these companies are following, and it's pretty simple. And we'll go through a few of the aspects that they use very successfully. Number one, they find hosts that are going to represent their brand and target their audience effectively. Then they enable the hosts to try their product. They even go and meet the host sometimes, get the host really bought into their product, and it shows in the advert and then converts the audience. They set up very specific tracking so they can tell from dollar in how much they're actually getting out. This is very important because you're going to build a strategy in this industry that you need to be able to scale. And if you don't know where your money's going and on what shows are performing, then you're going to burn a lot of money really quickly. The best companies, they know exactly the shows that are converting really well. When they put $1 in, they know consistently they can get $5 or $3 back. And they can build a very, very well-informed strategy off this. Audio pixels are a new innovation that enable brands to do this very effectively. They're pretty simple. What you do is you take a code snippet and you put it on your website, and then you give it to the host of the podcast. The host then puts this into the audio file. Then every time a listener listens to the podcast, it is tracked to see what that listener does. Basically, the audio pixel is going to determine if that listener went and bought the product, did they visit the website, etc. From this, we can know with pretty high certainty that given show A went out to, 50,000 people, that we were able to make $5,000 in revenue. There's a bit of a two-pronged strategy that most brands use in order to figure out the best portfolio of shows to advertise on. So number one, you can choose the headliners, big shows, the Call Her Daddies, the Conan O'Briens, the Crime Junkies, and you can leverage a lot of that influence to convert an audience. Or you can take a much more measured approach and you can go and look where your niche audience is. And these are often smaller shows, and then you basically run ads on these and see how well they convert. This type of strategy, the second one, is more of a numbers game. You get more breadth over more shows because they're less expensive, but you're able to test into these specific shows, learn what works, and then you can determine if you go for the big ones after that. And some companies just don't. BetterHelp often spends a lot of their budget on the really, really small niche audiences. They've been known to advertise on audiences with 2,000 listeners and do this consistently through hundreds of them. Whereas sometimes they also go and they find your Call Her Daddy and advertise on that. They then have a very well-rounded approach, and it works. It's mathematical and scientific, and this is why they spend $100 million on podcast advertising virtually every year. Most people think that you need to run podcast ads throughout the year. You need to max out repetition so the audience literally knows your product on the back of their hand. This is actually not how the top agencies buy ads. They test on 1 to 2 ads. Typically 2, because you never know if the host has a bad day or misreads a certain ad. So you really need to know, okay, will this host actually convert for my audience? And the best way to do that is to run 2 ads. The first ad should be on week 1. Then we're going to wait for a while, let the audience come in, see how it performs. The question you want to ask then is, do we need to alter any creative? Is everything sort of working? Is the host announcing this in a way we had hoped? Are they being personable? Are they saying it from the heart? If so, we may have a winning ad. It may just have been a misread. And so 3 weeks later, we're going to go and run our next ad. Through this, we have pretty high confidence, and I think the industry tends to agree that if you run 2 ads and it performs after those 2, then the chances are that you can scale that up and it's going to perform really well. If it really doesn't hit, or it's just, quite far away from break even, probably turn that one down for a while. Maybe something was off. You can do a deep dive, try and figure out what went wrong. Often it could be that there was a lot of other advertisers on that episode and everything was good. However, your share of voice on that episode was actually pretty low. The last big step is you got to create a crystal clear call to action that works. And the simple fact is you got to just keep it very, very focused. So you focus on the problem that the host is going to say, make sure it's super personalized, and then set it up for the layup, which is where they go and they give their promo code and tell people to go and get the thing now. Make sure the call to action is specific and it's actionable and there's no confusion as to how to go and get the deal. A promo code that the host tends to use is the best possible option because the audience is already familiar with that. They don't have to memorize something else. They just need to know that when they get out of that car and they open up their phone to go to the website to buy your product, to use the host's promo code because they're familiar with it. Simple as that. Look, if you want to get going and you want to get these crazy good returns that the likes of BetterHelp, Quince, AG1, LinkedIn are getting in this industry, it's pretty easy to get lost in the noise. Where you need to go is Spots Now. Spots Now keeps it simple. They have a lot of open spots from premium shows that you can go and test on to see if those shows resonate with your audience. Simply go to spotsnow.io. It's very simple. You can get set up in a couple of minutes.